Good. You know how to raise your hand. So everything started 3 months ago with this tweet from a colleague of mine. So you want to fix your current situation, but you don't want to understand what you did to reach this point. I was having breakfast and reading my Twitter, and I came across this tweet. And I answered, no, you don't need to. You don't need to. And we engaged in a conversation. Then some people joined, and one of the organizers of CAS told me, well, maybe you can suggest a paper for CAS. And I thought, well, that's maybe a good idea. So I decided to send this paper, and here we are. It was accepted. This tweet is a kind of a summary of a typical approach or conventional wisdom to working with people, organizations. Something's broken, and let's fix it. Here we have the Agile coach fixing a guy. Okay, this some of what managers, consultants, and coaches do at organizations. They're just trying to spot something to fix. This never worked for me in my life, personally. This may work for machines, for processes. It's a good approach, asking why 5 times, causal loop diagrams, whatever. But for people, teams, and organizations, there is something different. As I said, this never worked for me. In my life, when I had problems or situations that I didn't like, or I was not comfortable with, for me, it was a pain in the ass, or it was really painful to start looking at what was wrong and what caused that, and really, it never worked for me, and I thought there must be something different here. And some years ago, I came across this approach. It's not the absolute truth, let's say, what we're talking about here. I say it's an alternative, right? Because I like that some of you, at least, get out of this talk with a seed in your brain or a thought. And when you find out these situations in the future, you can say, oh, maybe it's another way I can take, another approach I can take. Focusing on problems leads us to the past. Focusing on problems leads to try to change what cannot be changed because it's the past. Focusing on problems leads to blame, excuses, justifications of all kinds. It's painful, it's slow, and often drains our mental energy. Focusing on solutions, however, it's energizing and opens up our brain, let's say, or to ideas and to new ideas and new options. What I'm not saying here is that we don't want to solve problems or we don't want to address problems, but we address them by looking at the future, not focusing on the past, on what is wrong. And to exercise this a little bit, I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise. It's not going to hurt, guys. It's quick. So most of you are in pairs, so you have someone to your right or to your left. So I'm going to ask you to do something so you can get a small glimpse on what I'm talking about practically. And then when we finish this exercise, you can relax and enjoy the rest of the talk. So find a pair to your right or to your left. If you are 3 or 4, one can be the observer and then share some thoughts. One is going to be the coach, and the other one is going to be the coachee. Okay? Coachee selects one issue. You think of one issue, something that is worrying you, a professional thing, a personal thing. Don't make it too hard, something that is too strong, just something mild that is worrying you right now. And once you have this issue, the coach is going to be asking these 3 questions. What do you think is causing it? How do you feel about it? And what is preventing you from solving the issue right now? Okay? So, are we fine? Are you ready? Can you do the exercise? Coach, coachee? No, I'm going to control the time, don't worry. Okay, You can go. Now to the emotion, to change your mental state, the coachee can try to say your mobile number reverse order, starting from the right. Can you do that? It's impossible, right? Try it. You will. Whenever you have something that is worrying you, at the moment, try to say your mobile number in reverse order, and you will calm down a little bit. So, second part. Now, again, the same people, same pairs. Coach is still the same, coachee is still the same. But you're going to start the conversation with this sentence. Let's just suppose that something happened and your issue had been solved. And the three questions. How would you know that your issue has been solved? What would be different for you then? What do you need to make this work? Okay? You can start. Thank you. Does anyone want to share something with the rest of the people? Did you find any difference with the two exercises? Did you notice anything? Your emotional state, your body language, easier, difficult? Which one was easier? Which one was difficult? Yeah, you can share, yeah. I will.
Vale. La primera parte de las preguntas me hacían sentir muy violento. Cuando me preguntaba qué creo que tendría que pasar para dejar de tener el problema, pues no lo sé, ¿no? Por eso lo tengo. En el segundo, al imaginarme que ya se había solucionado, pues iba haciendo como una historia, ¿no? De qué ha pasado para solucionarlo.
Okay.
No me sentía tan violento.
So you're saying that the first round, the translation is that you were feeling violated by the questions, or yeah, and the second one was more positive, maybe. Well, maybe that's obvious, but I will pull a little bit on that. And the thing is that what I really like about this approach, and I will talk about this later, is that it's very respectful. It's about accepting what it is and respecting the other human being that you have in front, or the team, or the organization. You're not, in the world of coaching, it's arrogance is not an option, and this is a very respectful approach, okay? And this is what I like most about this. So, if people were cars, fixing people's problems would be easy, right? You have a problem in the engine. You go to the mechanic. You find the faulty part. You fix it, replace it, and you're back on the road. The thing is that people are not machines. People are not processes. People are complex systems, sometimes chaotic, maybe. And this doesn't work for people. Although we do it all the time, right? We want to be less something. We want to get rid of something. We want to quit something or war against whatever. And this is an ongoing mentality everywhere, right? Take John. John wants a new job in his company. But he lacks confidence, okay? Some people might try to help John by asking, why? Why do you lack confidence? And start trying to remove this word from your vocabulary is a good way of starting to having this solution folks mentality, right? Perhaps the solution lies in the past. When I was a child, says John, a teacher humiliated me in front of a class. Okay, you have a problem with the childhood. We know what happens. No? Now we have everything we need to solve it. You have a problem with your parents. We have a problem with your brother. No? So it's always trying to look something in the past. We're looking for explanations always. The thing is that nothing changes after this conversation with John. His life is still the same, but he is now buried into a kind of avalanche of painful memories. And he has become also an expert in what in confidence lack, or whatever is said, in lacking confidence. What will help John, though, is asking similar question that we saw in the exercise. Let's just suppose that something happened and you had all the confidence that you needed. What would be different for you? Maybe John would answer, well, I would have all the confidence I needed to say what I mean in meetings, or I would have the courage to be honest with my teammates, or I would be able to speak at conferences and enjoy it. The problem, as it is, it's not solved. But now John has something different. He has a goal where he can put his attention and his focus. And this is what solution focus is about. It's not about fixing the old. It's about creating something new. Right? Change in complex systems is about building. It's about growing. It's not about fixing and removing the faulty part. Let's put a little bit of science in the conversation, so you don't start thinking, okay, this is a tree hugger. Actually, those who know me wouldn't classify me as a tree hugger, but just in case, I'm gonna talk about a little bit about science here. One of the two issues I think are related to this mentality that's coming from this therapeutic background and engineering background and using it with human systems and complex systems is first a lack of understanding of how our brain works, and second, a lack of understanding of how complex system works, complex adaptive systems. Kinefin, I had to put kinefin. Everybody puts kinefin nowadays, so here it is. I promise I had it before yesterday's. It's been here for a while. The thing is here, we are in the domain of cars, of processes, of engineering practices, software, all those sort of things. But we are applying this approach to work in this domain. Humans, teams, organizations are in this domain, sometimes in this domain. So what works here doesn't work here, and I'm quite sure that what works here doesn't work here either. So you need to change your hat, consultant, coach, coach, consultant. But crossing these things or mixing them, maybe it's not going to be worth. It's like Tuchman. I had to say it, sorry. I have my personal crusade against using this model with teams. Tuchman model is a model, a linear model of how teams develop over time, which explains how teams develop over time in a linear fashion, predictable. But teams are in this domain. So I really encourage you to stop using and referencing this model, please. So we are here. Okay. What happens? Actually, you mentioned it a little bit before. Focusing on the past, focusing on problems, generates the same response in our brain as the typical fight or flight response. The stress response, it generates noradrenaline and cortisol in our brains. It puts us in defensive mode. It stops our thinking. All the blood moves to muscles to be able to run and to the lungs. And this blood, that is in the muscles, is not in your brain to allow you to think properly. So it's something similar that happens if I put this image and you concentrate in the next image. Now probably most of the audience is salivating already, and if not, you notice something here. Our brain is very bad at differentiating reality from fiction. Very bad. So when we talk about problems, we talk about the past, we are actually making our brain salivate. But salivate about problems, about stress, and making our body feel the same sensation and the same flow of substances that as if you were in a fight or you were running away from from a tiger in the woods. Also, there is this myth of unlearning. I say myth because we cannot unlearn. It's been demonstrated recently, in studies in how the brain works. There is this myth so that you have a habit and you just delete this habit from your brain and then everything is fine. There's this fixing mentality. Our brain is very good at detecting patterns and repetitions. It's really good at that, and automating those patterns and repetitions. And once automated, you cannot delete that, okay? But you can do something different. And it's another powerful capability of our brains, which is neuroplasticity. Our brain has the capability of creating new wirings, new neural networks, new connections. So what you have to do is create a new habit, a new way of working that is much more powerful than the old way, right? So you have a highway which is leading you to the hell, then you must build on top of the highway a bigger highway, right? Again, it's creating something new versus fixing. Complex systems cannot be built or fixed. Complex systems are grown and developed. Right? What are the origins of solution focus? Let's say that the source of all this approach is brief therapy, which was a therapeutic approach to dealing with alcoholism and all sorts of let's say, behavioral dysfunctions, developed in the 80s by these two guys. And they started working with people in focusing on what was right and what might work instead of focusing on the past and what was wrong. By taking this approach in therapeutic processes, they reduced the consultation time by 70%, achieving the same results as other forms of therapy, which is good. This has been evolving, obviously, over time. In 1997, this was starting to be moved to the coaching discipline. But perhaps the key contribution of brief therapy to the world of coaching and solution focus is the miracle question that you have kind of experienced a little bit. So this is what it says, the question. I'm not going to read it loud. The thing with this question, the underlying, I don't know how to say this. If you read between lines, let's say, when you are asking someone this question, you are asking what the intrinsic motivation of this person, right? You are asking about the values. Even if you're not mentioning values, here you are asking about the values. Because each one of you, in your specific situation, will answer very different things to this question. And it's because you are kind of automatically tackling with what motivates you, with what drives you, without even talking about values. For some people, talking about values is kind of aggressive. Let's say, what are your values? I don't know what are my values. So it's like, again, it's trying to understand too much instead of trying to build something, right? There are also some other positive routes that have had some contribution to the world of coaching and specifically to solution focus. Appreciative inquiry, some of you may know about this. Intentional change theory and positive psychology. This positive psychology is not the thing about these weird things of you want to achieve something and you put a poster in your room of that thing that you want to achieve. No, it's something that has been working for years, and it's this approach of psychology that is working on strength and what is right and what is the desired future of people. All these three approaches, all in different ways, say that you don't want to be focusing on what is wrong, on the dysfunction, on what is not working. Instead, you focus on what is wanted, what is desired, and what is the strength and the resources already existing. Well, again, with regards to these three approaches also emphasize the concept of creating something new and focusing all your attention in that something new. Forget about the problem. So in solution focus, we say that the solution does not care where the problem is coming from. You have a problem, okay, fine, but let's focus on the future, on what you want. This slide is very important because most of us have this engineering mentality. And if we look at this, here is let's say the complexity domain, and here's the complicated domain, right? In processes, technology, stuff, maybe changes happen in a linear or progressive way. What intentional change theory says, and complexity theory too, is that changes in complex systems don't happen in a smooth and linear way. There are long periods of stability because complex systems look for stability, but at some point in time there is a very short period of time where a lot of change happens altogether. And then there is something new. I don't know, I quit smoking some time ago, and I personally don't know anyone who stopped smoking by stopping 1 cigarette less every day. So today I smoke 20, tomorrow 19, the day after 18, no, that doesn't work like that. Or by using these nicotine patches. Someday you wake up and you don't smoke anymore. And you don't want to know why. You don't care. You just don't smoke anymore, okay? If it doesn't work like that, it doesn't work, I can tell you. Because you cross the tipping point. There is no coming back from that. And you never smoke again, right? And the same happens with any sort of human systems. That's why I don't like Tuchman's model, because it's assuming that the change happens in a linear, and for me it doesn't happen like that. When I work with teams, I don't expect, okay, now you are informing, okay, I should be doing this, now you're storming, now, no. It's just waiting for these emergent moments to happen. If you do things right, something will happen at some point. You have to be patient and rely on the intelligence of the system you're working with. Another contribution of intentional change theory is the positive emotional attractor. Peter Senge, in his book, The Fifth Discipline, mentions something similar, which is the creative tension. It's kind of the similar concept. But again, is engaging with your vision, your desired future, from your strength and your resources is all you need to create sustainable change. And something will happen here. Obviously, you need to do stuff, right? It's not like sitting in the sofa and waiting for something to happen. You need to do actions, right? But this is, here the creative tension is created. Again, positive emotional attractor is about novelty and excitement. Is dopamine in your brain? Is this relaxed state of mind, or when you are focused, when you are in the zone, you are activating this positive emotional attractor. Instead, where you are running from a tiger, you are in the negative emotional attractor. It's the same that when you're thinking on problems, or you're thinking in your past, or when you were a child and someone humiliated you in front of a class, right? Now, in the end, we're going to go through solution focus. I need to rush a little bit. So, this guy in 1997 moved all these concepts that we have seen to solution focus, to the coaching world, and called it solution focus, right? The concept, again, is that we don't want the same mentality or mindset that brought us to here. We want to create something new, right? And this approach is about that. It's not, we don't care about where the problem is coming from. We don't care about the causes of the problem. That's fine. We want to create something new. Some principles from solution, I forgot something. Solution-focused coaching is coaching, right? So all the principles, practices, mindset, and stuff that applies to coaching applies to solution focus, right? It's like coaching is agile and solution focus is Scrum, right? It's an implementation of coaching, let's say. This concept here, before someone starts thinking, oh, this guy doesn't like continuous improvement, it's not like that. So the concept is, if something is unbroken, don't fix it. The thing is that with working with complex systems, sometimes you don't know what is broken. And most of the time, you won't be able to know that, because cause and effect in complex system is not related in time and space. So something maybe happened that may be a symptom or maybe the cause, but you don't know. It's very difficult. And sometimes we fix stuff without knowing exactly if that's the root cause or not. In the end, who cares? Also, there is no problem that happens all the time. Again, in complex systems, right? In processes, if you have a problem, it happens all the time. But in human systems, organizations, there may be some points in time where that problem is less severe or that problem is not happening at all. You need to analyze that, because there you have a lot of information of what is already working. Not where is the problem, but what is already working. Stop doing what doesn't work. Well, it may seem obvious, but we do it all the time. I had this example in a coaching process I was doing. This manager was very good, had done all the trainings in getting things done, and the 7 habits of highly effective people, but he still had a lot of an issue with managing his time. He didn't know what to do, right? But he did again and tried to improve in managing his time better with all these tools and stuff. What worked for this guy, this guy was in a kind of this vicious loop that we have been at some point in time always in the past, that he did all the same, right? But sometimes, if you want to get out of this vicious loop, the outcome, so the exit, sorry, may seem paradoxical, may seem irrational, may seem nonsense, but you need to try that. What worked for this guy was to, for instance, getting out of work 3 days a week, getting out of work 30 minutes earlier. In the end, it's kind of contradicting, no? You have problems managing your time, and then you go home 30 minutes earlier. He wanted to use this time by taking coffee, going for a walk, reading newspaper, but nothing to do with work. With time, this sacred time, so these 30 minutes becomes some sacred time. And we start organizing on his day around being able to get out of work 30 minutes earlier. Start saying no to things, start organizing his meetings better so he can get out home earlier, right? So is it related to the problem? Well, kind of, but not exactly, right? So again, remember about the highway and deleting stuff in our brain. We have this way of walking all the day, but sometimes you need to just step to the side, do something completely different, and that something will happen then. Some emergence will happen, right? Also, one principle is that we don't want to go analyzing the past with why did this happen, how many times did it happen, how do you feel about it. We don't spend any energy there at all. That's not. We concentrate all our energy in shaping and creating the future, designing the future, and moving towards there. Also, we pull from these existing resources what people are doing right already, what people are doing that can help them get closer to that goal. And again, the concept of smoking is about finding new perspective. If someone wants to quit smoking, you say, okay, I want to quit smoking. Okay, and then you ask, what do you want? If you don't want to smoke, what do you want instead? Okay, what do you want instead? Well, I want to be healthy. And what does it mean, being healthy for you? Okay, well, maybe I could be able to climb stairs, I would be able to run, or maybe I could run a marathon in 1 year time. Okay, what do you need to be able to run a marathon? Okay, I need to read books about marathons, I need to do diet, I need to train every day, I need to sleep better, all this stuff. And all of a sudden, in 5 minutes, you have something that is not exactly related with quitting smoking. It's something different, right? But it's so big, that something new that you have created, that you almost forget that you smoked, right? And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Someday, this guy will wake up and never come back to smoking again, right? Tools. Tools. So some practical tools for you guys. Again, you don't need to be a professional coach to use these tools. as I said, these tools are very respectful with people, with systems they're working with. So there is no harm in using them. Just read a little bit, and I would be happy some of you would start using some of these tools. This is important. This, as I said, this is coaching, so it applies to many situations. But one situation where this works especially well is when these teams or organizations or individuals are in this kind of, oh, poor me, I cannot see a way forward, complaining about everything, finding problems everywhere, blockers everywhere. When people are stuck in the mud, working on solutions is really powerful. It may not solve the thing, but it will create a new mindset. It will change the status or the mental status of the team, of the group. I recommend that you use this approach. Here we have Solution Circle, developed by Daniel Meyer. Daniel Meyer moved all the concepts of solution focus to teams. We're not going to go through this, but just with an example. There's a tool with several steps. You can use all the steps or not all the steps in this order or in a different order, and I will show with an example. We had this Scrum team with well, I wasn't here. It was a friend of mine that contacted me, and we had a conversation about this. They were in a situation. They didn't like the strategy for them for the following month. Also, some of them were complaining that they were always doing the boring work. Two guys had a permanent conflict, personal conflict. Also, there was a reorganization in the organization taking place, so that could impact them. And some people around them start noticing a lack of performance and demotivation on the team, right? So Maria, the Scrum Master, we had a conversation about this, and we designed a workshop for them. But before that, in this situation, strategy, conflict, boring work, reorganization, what do? You are helping these guys, or you're working there, oh, what shall we do? Maybe you start 5 initiatives in parallel to fix all the 5 things in parallel. I would say, no, don't do any. Just, again, start with the future. What do these guys want to be in the future? Okay. We started this workshop. Well, we did all the stuff that we do in workshops, but just to go through the main steps. With this exercise, this kind of surprised the guys because they are already coming ready for complaining and blaming and shouting and crying and all this stuff. But soon they changed their mindset and start working very motivated towards designing this future, right? The second thing that we did is what is called the scaling dance. Now you have all the team, they have defined this MVP for the future, and you ask them, okay, over there is your future is a 10 in this scale. Where would you position yourself between? So where do you think your current team is now with regards to that future, which is a 10? A 0, a 1, a 2? Most people position themselves between 2 and 5, and then you can have a very powerful conversation there, because if it's a 2, they are doing something well, right? They are not a 0. So what are you doing well already? What would be your next step towards this future? At the end of the day, Maria gave them an observation task, which is very powerful. Remember the guy just saying where energy flows where attention flows? No, energy flows where attention goes, sorry. So this observation task is just observation. So you need to, the following 2 weeks, you need to look for situations where the solution is already happening, even a little bit. This is called highlights. It's here. There's this observation task. But then, when these guys came back, on the second day, they dedicated almost 1 hour on saying things they had seen of the future that already work, right? And from there, the energy, the motivation for change changes completely, right? No? ¿5 ya? Last tool. This comes directly from positive psychology. There's a huge focus in positive psychology in working on strengths Okay? And this tool, I've used it in a couple of coaching processes. You can use it with teams and with individuals. It's really powerful. So this is a kind of a picture of what are your strengths as an individual or as a team. Here you have the strength that you know you have and you are good at. Here you have the strength that you don't know you have, but you are also good at, so you should use more of them. Here are learned behaviors, so those weaknesses that with time became something that you do fairly well, although they are de-energizing, right? And here, for instance, is where I'm right now in the present. I'm here now. So I don't have this natural tendency of speaking in groups. I'm introvert. For me, it's really, really stressful to be here right now. You cannot imagine how much. I didn't sleep well last night, although I've prepared. I've done this presentation maybe 100 times, and I won't lie to you, on my own and to other people. What I'm doing here, I didn't go, oh, I'm shy, I'm an introvert, I am very bad at speaking in public, what can we do about you? Oh, poor me, no. I told at the beginning that never worked for me. But what I did is use my strength. My strength is discipline, is learning, and trying to get better, and having a motivation in life, a future, right? So that's what I'm doing. And the discipline, no, it's like the discipline of Karate Kid, no? All the time. All the time. I do this 100 times. Okay, I do this 100 times. And this is what works for me. But I'm not getting better at being less introvert. That doesn't work for me, right? It never worked. Is this, right? So you have a goal, or you want to do something, and you have a weakness in the middle. We try to get better at weaknesses. Sometimes, I'm not saying that it's always, sometimes you may need to get better at some specific weaknesses, right? In your context, you may need to do some improvements. But in general, trying to find what are your strengths, your natural strengths. Each one of us has his unique value proposition. What makes you unique? What strengths you have that you can use to bypass your weaknesses? And, well, this is another tool, but I don't have time. This is exactly the same. Outcome, future perfect, scaling. Where are you with regards to that future? What are you doing well, and what are your resources? What can you do to get closer to that future? And then review, and here goes the cycle. Some questions. This is the awful slide that I always put to remember that some years ago I did this kind of shitty slides. And just to end, remember, next time a colleague, a friend, your wife, your partner comes to you with an issue, instead of asking, why did this happen, you can ask, what shall we do about it? Okay? Thank you very much. ¿Quedamos 5 minutos? Bueno, no sé. ¿Preguntas? Ah.
Hi. So in the context of coaching, it makes a lot of sense, a lot of things you said. I was wondering, within Scrum and within the practice, we have this retrospective, which we do regularly.
You said retrospective. Sorry.
You can talk about that as well. So I just wanted to know if, how would you approach it differently?
Well, you asked, right? Okay. With being in danger of being burned alive by the Agile Inquisition, I don't specifically like retrospectives because they are strongly focused in the past. Last year in the conference, I already mentioned why I didn't like retrospective, because maybe it's one of the most biased events that can happen in an organization because it pulls from memory. Apart from that, it's focused on the past. You can use retrospective, use them for process improvement, not for people improvement or for teams improvement. I would even say more. Don't use retrospective, use improvement kata. Improvement kata is linked to the objective and the needs of the company all the way down. And sometimes you may be improving as a team. Okay, but improving for what, right? How this improvement is going to make our company better. Sometimes this link doesn't exist in retrospective. So use them for process, for technical stuff, but refrain from using that with people and human systems, let's say. That's my recommendation. I don't do that.
How do you make sure that the problems that happened before will not be repeated again, that will cause again the same situation?
Well, I can. That's not my responsibility. I'd say with me, yes, but with the team, that would be their responsibility. But the thing, if we go back to the slide with how change happens in a complex system, I'm confident that if we are doing things right, those things won't go back, right? If not just doing cosmetic things, we are doing real stuff. Those things don't happen again. I mean, I rely on that. It may happen, right? Maybe sometimes you go back, but making sure, I don't know how to be more sure about that. If it happens, we will see. Okay, maybe the goal was not sufficient motivating for the people, or maybe we start in one place. We should start before or later. I don't know. We need to see that. But making sure, I cannot make sure. I don't know how to make sure about that.
Thank you, Gerard, for your talk. Do you have any experience of any team that used to have typical retrospectives, and you came with this new idea, and probably you still keep on doing the retrospective, but with this different approach?
Actually, I don't know if, no, I cannot see him here. You can take this, there's something called futurospective. I think we have done it several times. In the end, it may work, but again, I prefer the improvement kata approach, because I mean it's the whole system that is connected with improvement kata. It's not just the team. So and it's also looking at where you want to go and where you are now and what is the next step. In the middle, you do some PDCA and stuff, which is some kind of analysis of the problem, but that may work for processes, right? But for teams, it's like coaching. There is no concept of retrospective for the team, right? For the human system. For processes, you can do the things that you're doing all the time, and that works very well, right? ¿Está ya?